IndyCar Airlines Flight 12 originating from Cleveland's Burke Lakefront Airport. Please fasten your seatbelts. This flight will be fast. We also expect to encounter some heavy turbulence. Please extinguish all smoking materials. Once in flight, smoking is permitted, but not recommended. We ask you remain seated throughout the duration of takeoff and landing. Thank you for choosing IndyCar Airlines. We invite you to join us in the cockpit for a spectacular view. Now prepare for takeoff.
We're at the Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland, which for this single weekend becomes a racetrack. It's round 12 of the PPG IndyCar World Series, the Cleveland IndyCar Grand Prix. And these teams are now focused on PPG points and the championship. In fact, 4 of the last 13 races here have predicted the IndyCar champion, but it's not going to be that simple this weekend. Jacques Villeneuve has a 20-point lead on the rest of the field, but that can be erased in a single event. And at this point, the championship could still belong to anyone. At the same time, Sam Posey, Michael Andretti's fortunes may have changed.
Well, Paul, if Michael Andretti's victory last week at Toronto does touch off a winning streak, then he has plenty of time with 6 remaining races to wrest this championship lead from his chief rivals, Villeneuve and Rahal. But he must be consistent. And Lynn, his bad qualifying here, he was 10th, may have consequences once the race begins.
This track is notorious for taking cars out on the first lap going into turn 1. In fact, Michael crashed here last year. But I can tell you that if you can get through turn 1 clean, you've got lots of places to pass and lots of ways to win this race.
In row 3, Andre Ribeiro, another rookie, has his best ever start, and this one is Honda powered. Outside is Paul Tracy, the 1993 Cleveland winner. He's discarded his crutches this weekend. In row 4, it's Scott Pruitt. His first mechanical DNF of the season came last week in Toronto. Outside is Robbie Gordon, a 2-time winner this year. He lies 3rd in the points. In row 5, it's Raul Boesel and Michael Andretti. Last week's Toronto winner has only 1 win at Cleveland in 1991. In row 6, it's Bobby Rahal. His first career win came in the inaugural race here in 1982. And Mauricio Gugelmin. In row 7, Al Unser Jr., a 2-time Cleveland winner. And Andy Sullivan, a 3-time winner who won his first race on the runways at Cleveland. In row 8, it's Jimmy Vasser and Christian Fittipaldi. The 9th row, Emerson Fittipaldi, a 3-time winner here at Cleveland, and Adrian Fernandez. In row 10, Parker Johnstone and Stefan Johansson. The 11th row, Eddie Cheever and Eric Bachelard. The 12th row, Hiro Matsushita and Alessandro Zampedri. In the 13th row, Carlos Guerrero, who has just inked a $4.5 million deal with Dick Simon for next year, and Marco Greco. And in row 14, Eliseo Salazar. Now, looking ahead to this race on the Burke Lakefront Airport, 90 laps, the fuel stop should come 30 laps out. And the current points in the PPG Championship, you look here, Jacques Villeneuve leads the points, but look all the way down to Michael Andretti. He's led 329 laps, by far more than anyone else of the season, but as yet has only converted to a win 1 time and sits at 90 points. Still, there are plenty of points to go. Now, let's take a look at the circuit here at the Burke Lakefront Airport. 2.369 miles around, 10 turns. The trouble spots are turn 1, especially on the start, and between turn 3 and 4. And where can you pass here? Anywhere. Name a place, you got it, you can go around. The runways are 96 feet wide. That's nearly twice the width of the main straightaway at Indianapolis. In the Nations Cup, the United States now is beginning to pull away. And in today's field, here's the way they line up: chassis, engines, and tires. And the field is rolling on the circuit. In the Manufacturers Championship battle, Fort Cosworth continues to lead. So that's the setup. And the field is moving down as we take a look down from high above the runways. Look at those grandstands. They are jammed here today. Bright sunny skies, though we worried about rain. And this is the East Loop, the far eastern end of the track. 3 consecutive turns all to the right, and it brings them on a very fast straight that heads them back toward the main straightaway. What's nice about this as a road circuit is the fact that from those grandstands you can see every point on the course. Johnny Rutherford is the driver of the PPG pace car as the field lines up with this rookie pole sitter in the bright yellow car, Jill DeFerrin. And the concern here, of course, is that turn 1, because it can be so very quick and so very wide, and we've seen them pull out and try any kind of line. So as they come, we've got a spin already as we came off of one of those areas that we told you was matter of concern.
We're not even getting to turn 1 before an incident breaks.
Nevertheless, they went green flag. They're through turn 1. We're racing. But the field badly broken up as they came through turn 1. Tracy, Ribeiro, Pruitt all appear to be part of that incident, and Tracy's back running again. Andre Ribeiro and Scott Pruitt are both still sitting on the race course. Well, Andre Ribeiro is off the edge. Here it is. Tracy, who has been really charging forward in the past couple of races, was charging again and got together with Ribeiro.
It's amazing to have that happen in turn 3, or in the row 3 and row 4, that mid, section of it, to have it happen there. But I think I read a quote where Tracy said he really had to get to the front because he didn't qualify as well as he expected. So he really jumped too soon.
Well, Paul Tracy got it back moving again. The IndyCar safety crew has managed to get Scott Pruitt over off the left side of the course, and they're trying to get him going before the rest of the field came around. But the field is now passing that section, and Jill DeFerrin, followed by Jack Villeneuve, leads the first lap. Teo Fabi comes across in third, and then Brian Herta, followed by Michael Andretti and Robbie Gordon, Mauricio Gugelmin.
You see the ambitious move there by Alonso Jr. going down the inside in the red and white car.
Here's the crash involving Paul Tracy. Now, they're still on the pace lap at this point. Through a right-hander, then a left-hander. The green's not yet out. He caught him just coming off of that last turn.
That makes you wonder about the alignment on Paul Tracy's car. Clearly, that front right wheel really came in contact hard.
That was Andre Ribeiro sitting off the side of the course. They still haven't been able to get him restarted and back into this action. It does not appear at first blush that he has any severe damage on the car that would prevent him from continuing on. So back to the run itself. Jill DeFerrin, Jack Villeneuve. Let's go pit side. Jack?
Let's give you a report on Paul Tracy. He radioed into the Newman Haas crew that he thinks something has been on the car, but they are hoping that maybe they can keep it under control until he comes in for his normal pit stop. This has put the chips on the wrong side of the deck for him right now, Paul.
Jack, any indication of what they're worried about, at aerodynamic or suspension?
Well, what he radioed in is he felt something was bent on the car, and it seems to me it might have been in the suspension area.
Jack, I think it's that right front. He really tagged the right front wheel. Bent wishbone or something.
Sam, that's probably what it is, because he just radioed in. It's handling terribly, but he's going to try and hold on as long as he can.
The one thing about this track, of course, it's so wide that if anything goes wrong, you've got big, safe runoff areas almost everywhere. So a driver tends to want to experiment a little longer than you would somewhere else.
It's also so bumpy that the suspension piece that's already not functioning and broken or somehow, not right, is really going to be a problem on this bumpy track. It'll just beat it to death.
Nothing changes at the front of the field. We can go back and take yet another view of that incident, which really came before the green. This was from the Honda Helicam sitting overhead. There's that last turn, and look in the third row there. There's the touch. And you can see what happened to Pruitt and Ribeiro as they got together on a rear ender. And look at how far Jack Villeneuve moved. He came sweeping way out trying to get into that corner more efficiently. Gary Gerald, what's Scott Pruitt's situation?
Well, his situation is that after a very few frustrating moments, they did get him restarted, and so he is back on the circuit, lost a tremendous amount of distance, including, I believe, a lap to the field. I haven't verified that. He has radioed to the crew, though he thinks the car is handling all right.
Gary, of course, Scott Pruitt has only dropped out of one race so far this year for mechanical reasons, another one Indianapolis because of a crash.
Well, Scott Pruitt is actually one lap behind the rest of the field. You're absolutely right, Gary. Paul Tracy started 6th. Has already passed Salazar and Hero and Carlos Guerrero after falling back behind the field. But, of course, he still has a full lap yet to make up.
Gilles de Ferran in the yellow car leading for Jim Hall, the car owner whose birthday it is today, by the way, is a Brazilian who was born in Paris. He speaks perfect English. He's been a great addition to the series this year with qualification positions right up front. He started first, second, third, fourth in races, but he has never finished better than 8th. So today's a big opportunity.
Car 1, Al Unser Jr. started 13th, is now up to 7th. So he begins to try and challenge Robbie Gordon. Jack Arute.
Paul, this is the piece that Andre Ribeiro desperately needs on his car. It's the front nose cone piece. They want to get him on the pit road as soon as possible. 10 simple bolts. They can pull the nose cone off, put this one on, and he'll be back pretty close to the way he was set up before. The cost of this kind of a nose cone in excess of $18,000 to $25,000.
Well, and he'll be running for it now. They just got Andre Ribeiro started once again and into competition, but 4 laps behind the race leader, who is coming to overhaul him, and may put him 5 laps down right here as the battle remains static at the front of the field. Gilles de Ferran, Jacques Villeneuve, and then, of course, Théo Fabi, who has been knocking on the door a number of races this year and is exceptionally good on a road course. There was Ribeiro as he tries to get out, get around this circuit, and get back in the pits should that become necessary. I also think we let the impression go that Paul Tracy had fallen off the lead lap. He had not. He, in fact, was able to get restarted by kicking the clutch in and keeping the engine going, got off and back onto the circuit, and is now carving his way through the field.
You see Jacques Villeneuve in that blue car right there in second place. He is the current championship leader. This is a good moment for him because Ray Hall is back in 9th. He's his closest pursuer in the championship, and Michael Andretti is 5th, did not get a really good start. So this is a very good moment for Jacques Villeneuve. He's not worried, certainly from a championship standpoint, by the yellow car here of Gilles de Ferran, who has only, I think, about 12 championship points. He's way out of it.
Let's go pit side, Jack Arute.
Well, Sam, you're talking about Jacques Villeneuve. Team Green has already calculated that fuel is not an issue here in terms of the amount of fuel that's been given to each team. But what is an issue is, can you go in a 2-stop configuration? They are going to try and make it on only 2 stops. That means despite the window opening at lap 25, in order for them to make it on only 2 stops, they are going to come in no earlier than lap 30. They feel that if they can accomplish that in this first session, they'll be able to make this race in only 2 stops.
All right, so we'll keep track on that as well. In the meantime, Paul Tracy, his situation on the suspension. Lynn St. James, it doesn't seem anything's obvious there.
It really doesn't. We had a very quick in-car of him before, and I was looking at that right front, and it just does not appear that there is any damage at all, which is great for him. I mean, it may have just knocked it out of alignment a little bit, but if nothing's broken, and so far his lines look clean, you know, it looks good for him.
And Paul Tracy does seem to be able to overpower an ill-handling car.
Remember, though, that at Miami, we watched Michael Andretti drive with a similar thing, and then the part failed 10 or 15 laps after the incident.
7 laps are complete. Gilles de Ferran, the pole sitter, has been the leader right from the green. 1 incident, and that actually before the green. 7 laps complete, 90 laps total. Looking down on the Burke Lakefront Airport, Jacques Villeneuve currently runs in second place, trying to track down Gilles de Ferran, who has pulled away. And Villeneuve seems to be in a fairly desperate run. For the past several laps, he's been locking the fronts in a desperate attempt to get that car stopped corner to corner and hold off a charging Théo Fabi in 3rd place. Andre Ribeiro is out of the run. He's with Jack. Jack Arute, you with us? Well,
there we go. Finally, we got the microphone open. Andre, your best qualifying effort, but it all goes for naught. What happened?
It is incredible. I was hit from the behind even before the start. I think people need to have more attention, and CART should, for sure, they must have to do something with them, because if those things keep happening, it's very bad.
Paul, that's what's so frustrating about a driver. As we watched them push Ribeiro's car by, it was obvious that one of the major problems, they had put a giant hole in one of the radiators.
All right, so there's the Ribeiro story. Now the story is Al Unser Jr.
Hey, Bob.
There he's challenged by Christian Fittipaldi, but he has been slowing down. He was up to 7th place, but now he's fallen back to 12th.
This is not where Al Unser Jr., who has been so dominant here in other years, wants to be at all. And in fact, it's symptomatic of the problems faced by the Penske team, who have not, as anyone knows, done well since the debacle of Indianapolis, where neither car qualified.
Well, Gary Gerald's in the Penske pit. Gary, what's the problems there?
Well, Roger Penske has been huddling with various members of his crew over here on the wall, arms folded in that typical pose. But this tough season for Al Unser Jr. continues. They're chasing one of those electronic gremlins that's causing a problem with the engine department. They haven't identified it just yet. Jr. continues to be on the course, but he has slowed substantially, as you indicated.
We see him here being overtaken, or nearly so, by Emerson Fittipaldi, who's come way up from several positions back. Al Unser, of course, carries that #1. You see it on the cars. That's because he's still the current reigning champion, but he isn't going to be long.
How many times we've seen those two cars running together like that, 1-2, but basically 1-2 on the racetrack, so it's unusual to see them back in the field.
In fact, it's a Penske battle now for 14th position, if you can believe that. Unser Jr. runs 14th. Fittipaldi 15th. Front of the field, unchallenged. Pulling away is Gil de Ferran. What a great story for this young rookie. Joins Jim Hall's team, has a rosy future in the Indy cars, and seems to love the ride that he has here.
Many rumors surrounding the Penske team. One of them is that they may exercise their option on Paul Tracy and try to get him back into the team for next year. Another is that Emerson might leave the team, but at this point everything is strictly in the rumor area.
Moving up in the field, the battle for 5th place. Michael Andretti just ahead of Robbie Gordon. As you saw just before that, Al Unser Jr.'s troubles continue. Now, look down here, Lynn St. James, on the right side of the cockpit, lower edge of the frame there. In fact, I think that's just one of those, for want of a better word, a decal holder that's flopped over.
Well, it looks like something's flying the wind, but because of the two bolts in the way that is, somehow I think that is something that's supposed to be holding straight up to help hold his head, so that, because we have, you know, a lot of right-hand turns here where his head would be, you know, flopping over there to the right. So I think that that's what it should be, and I can't believe, I mean, that's aerodynamically got to disrupt some air and not be as effective, but I don't think that's supposed to be laying flat like that.
Now we're going to open the microphone for Robbie Gordon as he makes the move with Michael Andretti.
Exciting, dramatic pass on Michael Andretti by Robbie Gordon.
Nice. Don't let him in, don't let him in. But now you got him. Keep him out.
And what is he going to say about this? Derek Walker talking to his driver.
Good. Gather it back up again. That's okay, you got him. Just settle down. Doing fine.
All right, here's what just happened as Robbie Gordon got past Michael Andretti, picked up 5th place, and almost immediately got himself in trouble. Way too hot into that corner, wouldn't you say, Lynn?
Absolutely. It looks like that is going into turn 3 there, and he just carried way too much speed. Didn't really lose it, didn't spin, but was able to continue on through the grass. But that, you know, those cars are really not designed to do that.
Here's another view. Same thing. Was there contact in this situation? Well, we come back to the front of the field as Jack Villeneuve with Teo Fabi continuing to bite at the back end of his car, and they begin to work their way through traffic.
Fabi there in the red and white car that looks so much like the familiar Penske car combination has knocked on the door over and over throughout this season without managing to succeed, without snaring a win. We've had 7 winners to this point in the season in the 12 races. And he is certainly one of the people who might add to that list of 7.
A tremendously wide, 96 feet wide straightaway, which is a runway most of the year. Here's a taxiway, and then on to another runway right alongside the lakefront. In fact, there are all kinds of boats, sailboats, power boats that watch this race from out in the lake, just a few feet off of that back straightaway. Only 2 times in the 13 previous races has the leader of the first lap gone on to win. Just a few seconds ago here at the Burke Lakefront Airport, Paul Tracy, who was running 17th after falling all the way to the back of the field and working his way up through the field, was suddenly into a quick spin and off the circuit, and this time he killed the engine. Here it is, Lynn.
Very close following Cheever, but it doesn't look like Cheever really slowed him down. I don't know, unless the Cheever slowed down and he was carrying more momentum and he spun to avoid rear-ending Cheever.
Another view, Sam.
He lost it before that, so.
You can see he kept the foot in the throttle, tried to snap it around. I'm surprised he stalled it. That was bad luck. He was running 17th at the time. This puts paid to any chance he might have. There's Sullivan, almost the same place. I was going to say that Tracy really has no chance now to win the championship.
So Danny Sullivan, now we can take a look from the onboard. Here's Paul Tracy's car. It doesn't look like Cheever was a factor at all. Just let the back end get around him. Parker Johnstone got an eye full, didn't he? And he killed it after that. He tried to come forward. Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we may have determined exactly what happened with Paul Tracy before we get a chance to talk to him. He had just radioed in about a half a lap before that he had developed severe steering problems with the car. Now he has finally gotten a push start back to the pits. They will go to work, the Newman Haas team, to see if they can repair the damage.
Boy, Jack, it doesn't look like it. He's already starting to throw stuff out of the cockpit.
Well, he came in dead stick, and this is it for Paul Tracy.
You know, they talk about his rejoining Penske. One of the great assets that he brings to any team is his testing ability. He's one of the best. You know, in the race, Paul Tracy may make a mistake from time to time, but he's a great tester. Here's
Stefan Johansson. He runs in 14th place. Not in contest anybody to the front. Johansson driving last year at Penske. I think it's interesting that while we talk about the Penske chassis being in trouble this year, and that this was that last year dominant chassis, that in fact Stefan has been able to better this chassis performance from last year every race he's been in.
This team does such a good job, the Tony Bettenhausen team. They just deserve a little luck, which they haven't had. They almost had a podium finish at Portland, got booted from behind by Michael Andretti when they ran out of fuel right on that last lap. Remember that, Paul? That was quite a moment.
Absolutely. You can see, too, from the onboard camera here, they talk, and Lynn, you've raced in the Indy cars on this circuit, how hard it is to identify your apex, your turn-in point, and everything.
Absolutely. Just going there, braking going into turn 3. I mean, all of your brake zones are on the left, but yet you've got to basically look for that right apex.
Let's go down to the pits. Once again, Jack Arute, you have Paul Tracy.
Well, Paul, it was a first lap accident that began the litany of problems. What finally put you out?
Well, I just was having a battle. The car was never handling right. From then we bent something on the front, and the Budweiser car wasn't handling well, and then I ended up spinning, and you know, we're 5 laps down, so it's really an exercise of nothing, so we just decided to park it and not waste our time.
Tell us your version of what happened, though, on the start.
Well, everybody was supposed to go through 2 abreast, and Andre didn't give me enough room and came across in front of me, so you know, everybody else got through, except there wasn't enough room. Andre wanted to go single file, so that was frustrating to have contact before we even got to the green flag.
Paul?
Paul Tracy's 6th DNF of this season. Back on board, now riding on the nose, Stefan Johansson.
You know, as we ride with Stefan, you see the wide open spaces we've been talking about on this airport circuit. Remember that when road racing was revived in the United States after World War II, it was always on the big airport tracks. For example, March Air Force Base or Sebring. And maybe, Paul, what do you think? That should come back a little bit. We have all those tight city courses. This is kind of great stuff where you can pass anywhere.
It's sure great for the crowd. Maybe Meigs Field, Chicago, my hometown.
Hey,
Let's go back to the front of the field, Gil DeFerrin.
Maybe the old Stapleton airport.
That's a very good idea, isn't it? Now, DeFerrin runs well in the lead right now. He is unchallenged by Jacques Villeneuve. That car that you saw off the edge, that is not Villeneuve. Take a look at how wide this thing is.
And by the way, one of the reasons DeFerrin is doing so well, I believe, I talked to him the other day, is because of the width of the track. Remember, he's a rookie. This is the first time he's run here. And he said he could experiment here in a way that he couldn't on the more confined tracks, and in particular, the ovals. He wasn't afraid of making a mistake, and he did have a spin in practice, but he didn't hit anything, didn't hurt the car at all.
That's Eliseo Salazar, who lines up just behind him. Now, you look back. These are all cars that have a lap down, and there is second place, Jacques Villeneuve. But he has, in fact, been whittling off. It went from 8 seconds to now in the 7-second bracket. where Jack Villeneuve has been closing, and perhaps Jack Root has an update.
Well, Paul, that window, as we said, 30 laps. What the team is going to do is add a little bit of front wing to the car. Now, the way they do that is there are some adjustments on the front of the wing, so when they come on the pit stop, be sure to watch, if you're a viewer, to the front of the car and watch one of the crew members twist those nuts. That's what will give them the downward force on the wing and help the handling.
23 laps now. We're about 7 away. Car over to the fence looks like Christian Fittipaldi. And how did he get there? Boy, that's a strange place to end up.
He'd been running 13th at the time, well back.
That's actually the entrance to the pit lane and well beyond the last corner.
There's a huge bump basically in turn 8A coming out, but I still can't imagine that he had to have cleared that. So whether he had a tire blow or something to put him over there. But I think, you know, there is an access area that he can go back and get off.
He might have just driven to that point after a problem.
We didn't see the...
So that gives him an opportunity to get him off of the course and also flies the yellow flag in that area only. Gil de Ferran still leads. We'll be back after these messages. Back with the Indy cars in Cleveland. Great battle for second place, Villeneuve and Fittipaldi. In the meantime, Emerson Fittipaldi has scored his 6th DNF of the year, is out of the race, Gary Gerald.
Emerson, what was the problem? I saw a lot of water coming out of the side pod here.
Well, it started leaking water. The water system started leaking. I was feeling the rear tires. I started getting loose the car. The last 5 laps I had to back off, and now we cannot continue, unfortunately. The car was running strong. I was hoping for a good race today.
This is your 25th anniversary this weekend of getting into a racing career, and I know this season is probably as frustrating as any one you've had. Has that been the case? I
think it's very frustrating, but we have to work hard to come back again, and everybody at Marlboro Team Penske are working really hard, and we're looking for the Marlboro, Michigan, the Marlboro 500 Michigan now next weekend.
Thanks, Emerson. Let's go to Jack Root now in Robbie Gordon's pit.
Well, Gary, mixed reports for Team Walker. First, Christian Fittipaldi, when we went to commercial, was having some problems. The report on the radio, an engine problem. In the meantime, his teammate Robbie Gordon came onto pit road, the first of the front runners to pit on lap 25. It looks like, based upon those calculations, he is going to have a gas and go at the end and make it a 3-stop race. No major chassis changes, simply take on the fuel and get back into the war.
And Jack, it was costly for Robbie Gordon, though. He fell down to 12th place on that stop, but of course the consideration is that no one else has stopped, and so he should be able to work his way back to the front once again. Currently running in 4th place, Brian Herta, driving for Chip Ganassi. This is your 4th place car. Ahead is Teo Fabi.
Remember that
Herta on the track, by the way, a bit ahead.
Right. Remember that Herta had the pole position some months now ago at Phoenix, and he has languished since then, has not really run well. Rumors have circulated that the team might drop him. He's fired up this weekend. He comes from Ohio, graduate of Ohio State, and we're glad to see him doing well.
Leader of the race, Gil de Ferran, comes into the pits, his first stop of the day. That's an indicator of radar speed that was blocking our view there for a moment. Jim Hall's team goes to work on the car. Everything looks routine thus far. No major changes. They seem to be happy with it. Didn't see any hands go for either the front or rear wing. So Gil de Ferran comes back into the fight, making his stop on lap 29. In the meantime, the officials are showing the black flag to Marco Greco. He was in and out of the pits, and in doing so broke the 80-mile-an-hour pit speed limit, so they'll give him a stop-and-go penalty. Boy, look at that as de Ferran comes out. That's one of the danger areas of this turn 1. It's also where the return road from the pits joins the racetrack, and you've got to be very careful when you're moving out there.
You really do, because even though sometimes it's a first gear turn for some of the drivers take it in second. It is the slowest turn on the track. Basically, you're only going 56 miles an hour approximately there, but you know, you come out of the pits, it's really critical.
See de Ferran hurdle it through those S-bends there. He told me that was the hardest and the last part of the track he really mastered. There's such a big bump in the middle of the S's. You have to throw the car sideways and then catch it on the other side of the bump.
Moving back to look at the battle for second, Villeneuve and Teo Fabi. Teo closes in once again as they pass Bobby Rahal, put him a lap down. There's the view from Rahal's car.
The amazing thing is that Fabi is pushing so hard with a pit stop just ahead. He has tried Villeneuve several times. You see him again running side by side. It really doesn't seem to matter that much. But once you get Teo, there's
seemed to matter to Bobby Rahal.
I don't know what's he doing out there.
View out there that he
became
got distracted.
He got caught up watching that fight. And of course, Carlos Guerrero, you saw him come through there as well. Now they close up on Herta. Herta coming up through that field.
This is going to create some interesting strategy because everybody's pitting on a different cycle, and so, you know, it's not like the leader came in and then everybody followed him in. So it's going to be everybody's pitting at a different point, which dictates and shows their hand a little bit, I think, on fuel mileage as well as just their pit stop strategy. I think Herta just came in the pits.
With his stop, de Ferran fell all the way down to 5th place. That gave the lead to Jacques Villeneuve. Herta was able to move around Fittipaldi and doing so assumed second, but then he rolled off into the pits, and now it is once again Villeneuve and Teo Fabi in contact, though now battling first and second.
I'd be interested to hear from Jack and Gary on this, but it seems that the pit stop strategy is more abstract. People are not doing things because of what other drivers and teams are doing. They're doing it just to maximize their own situation and really not caring so much what the others are doing.
Sam, that's almost contrary to what all the crew chiefs were telling us before the start of the race. They were saying we'll all pivot off what the leader does. It'll be dictated if we get by that opening when the window is open. They're trying to make it a two-stop race, but a lot of these guys are doing absolutely their own thing. I don't know if that's an indication of fuel mileage or the way the car is handling.
And Gary, the only team that had elected not to do that, not do a monkey see, monkey do, was Team Green and Jacques Villeneuve. They have said that they were going to come in on lap 30. That's indeed what they have done. Team Green is ready. Now remember, we said before they came into the pits, they were going to add some front wing. So we'll wait to see if a crew member will reach over and try and adjust the wing. First job is to change the tires, take on the fuel. There's the adjustment on the left side, now the right side. It looked as if a full turn, clean off the radiators, take on the fuel, and Villeneuve's away according to plan.
And de Ferran comes screaming past. Now Teo Fabi did not head into the pits on that lap. He elected to stay out, so he'd be scored as the lap leader at the conclusion of that lap. Here comes Jacques Villeneuve as he joins the fight once again. And de Ferran is back up to speed and running at full tilt after his service. So the top cars have received service thus far. Jacques Villeneuve, Gilles de Ferran, Teo Fabi stayed out for that lap.
Fabi is a real gamer. You get him inside the 10-yard line, so to speak, and you see him here coming into the pit. He will give a terrific performance. Gary's there.
Tony Brunetti and the crew are poised and ready. We're anticipating a half turn on the front wing. Everything else is terrific. Here's the nose of the 33 car right on the marks. Third place at Long Beach, his best finish this year. He's had a pair of fourths. And Sam, like you said, he is a gamer. Now we'll watch for that adjustment. There it is. First on the left, then on the right. Fueling complete. 13.2 seconds. Great stop.
So Teo Fabi, who had the lead for one lap, relinquishes that lead and joins the fight once again. And the order after this series of stops is de Ferran once again in front, followed by now Jacques Villeneuve, but Teo Fabi may have gotten Jack coming out.
Yeah, it looks as if the exchange of second place took place during the pit stops.
Wow.
That is very unusual because when you look at the Team Green car here, the blue one of Jacques Villeneuve, he is the guy that typically has been picking up spots throughout the year.
They've had spectacular stops all year. So Teo Fabi with a nice piece of driving and perhaps even better work off of his crew. Forsyth team doing a nice job. De Ferran still doing the best job. Leads this race. 33 laps now complete on the Burke Lakefront Airport. Go back, take a look at Michael Andretti, who with his stop has fallen down to 13th place. Interesting stat there on the pit stops between Teo Fabi and Jacques Villeneuve. Both of them in the 14-second bracket. Teo at 14.3 and Jack 14.8. I guess the question that has to come up, was there any violation of pit speed limit on the way out? Or did track position matter?
A half a second is very hard to gain on a racetrack. You lose it in the pits, you just lose it sitting there.
Well, remember that Fabi ran one more lap before he stopped on a light fuel load. That could be the difference, not the time spent stopped in the pit.
So now once once again, we're able to split the screen for you with Michael Andretti on the bottom and Brian Herta on the top, 2 cars in contact. There's the view from overhead. Michael Andretti, Brian Herta. Herta, the bright red car. Michael Andretti closes a little bit in the corner, but that closure immediately lost because the acceleration off the corner separates the cars once again.
The depth perception is so difficult here if you're even watching like this, or even you're in the race car. You think, oh, I'm gaining on him, because you gate under braking, and then it's just the acceleration here is so wide, and you could really have so much room that you lose all of it.
Now, as the other cars have peeled off for their stops, this battle comes forward. Brian Herta is in 5th, Michael Andretti in 6th.
Michael desperately needs this race if he's going to keep up the momentum that he got from his win last week in Toronto. There's
fire on Mauricio Gugelmin's car at the back end. It'll pop out of the turbocharger. Maybe that engine is gone as well.
Gugelmin has had the best finishing record of any car in the series. He's 10 for 11, but not today.
So Gilles de Ferran, the leader here, followed by Teo Fabi, then Jacques Villeneuve, with great work by the Forsyth crew. 36 laps are now complete at the Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland. Been a run that has been totally dominated so far by the rookie Gilles de Ferran with a great day. At the start of this race, there was contact even before the green flag with Andre Ribeiro, Paul Tracy, and Scott Pruitt got caught up in that action as well. As a result, Paul Tracy has fallen well behind the field, had some damage to his car, and then fell out. Ribeiro was out of the race on that, and Scott Pruitt has continued on. Here at lap 39 are the way the top positions are in this field. They have, in fact, completed their first pit stops, and Gilles de Ferran came out of those pit stops on top, and Teo Fabi, his Forsyth crew, giving him a great stop, was able to get around Jacques Villeneuve and move into 2nd place. Villeneuve is now 3rd. But let's review some of those stops, beginning with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, there seems to be 2 different approaches to pit stops here. With the distance of this race at 90 laps, some crews felt they could maybe make it on only 2 stops, but that necessitated pushing the window as far forward as possible. Now, what the teams have done is Jacques Villeneuve and Teo Fabi have determined they have to go in their first stop to lap 30. Both accomplished that. The same, though, cannot be said with Gilles de Ferran. De Ferran pitted a little bit earlier, as did some of his counterparts back in 5th and 6th. So some teams are planning on only 2 stops, and then some teams are planning on 3 stops. Let's check in with Gary Gerald for another story on pit road.
Well, Jack, this pit strategy, of course, being played out up and down every team. For the most part, teams are shooting for the 2-stop race. One of the primary concerns always on this very rough, abrasive circuit pertains to gearboxes and suspension pieces. Thus far, in the first 40 laps now of this race, we have not had those types of problems. There have been, however, problems for Team Penske. Emerson Fittipaldi broke a water line. He has been sidelined. There was an electronics problem for Al Unser Jr. He remains on course at this time. The pit work, however, by Teo Fabi's team gained him a position in the pits over Team Green. Fabi now running 2nd ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, but both, of course, chasing Gilles de Ferran. Paul?
And 41 laps now complete, 90 laps of scheduled distance. This is a great battle between Brian Herta and Michael Andretti. It is a fight for 6th place. We should also remind you that out of the race thus far, we mentioned Ribeiro and Tracy. Also, both Christian and Emerson Fittipaldi are out, as is Mauricio Gugelmin. All a result of mechanicals. Boy, look at Michael as he gives Brian Herta everything going into these corners. They've been beating at each other the past couple of laps. To our good fortune, we have onboard cameras on both cars. And while we watch this, you should know that Teo Fabi, running in 2nd place, has taken in the past 4 laps 4 seconds off of Gilles de Ferran's lead. In the booth here with me today, Sam Posey, Len St. James, Jack Arute, and Gary Gerald in the pits. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, you talked about those 4 seconds that your leader, Jill DeFerrin, has lost. They are blaming the Scott Pruitt automobile. It seemed Pruitt got a little sideways directly in front of DeFerrin. DeFerrin had to back out of the throttle and has been negotiating around the Pruitt area a little more gingerly than he might have. But they have radioed in to DeFerrin that he had better pick up the pace or he's going to be feeling the heat from behind in second position.
Marco Greco, quick spin on the course, doesn't look to be in danger. His second problem of the day. Back to the battle, Herta and Michael.
This is Herta in 5th place, looking back at Michael Andretti in 6th. Michael was fastest here on Friday, and then yesterday when they counted qualifying, he came up short with 10th place. They might have had small problems with the car, but they've not obviously hit the setup for race day because he is languishing well off the kind of pace that he typically runs.
Our apologies to you, too, that here, because these are airport runways, we can't bury the antennas that are used for the computerized scoring. So it's back to the old visual method. And therefore, things like intervals between drivers aren't created by the computer and so much harder to give to you. Robbie Gordon currently runs in 4th place on board with Robbie. There's Villeneuve just to the inside. Gordon may just have him. Also turn the radio up here on Robbie Gordon's car.
Stay on the tail.
He's talking with Derek Walker, his team manager.
It was interesting to hear Derek say, stay on his tail. I mean, it's like he's really coaching him.
Coverage coming from the Honda Helicam here. Looking at that battle for 3rd place. Jacques Villeneuve, the blue and white car, and Robbie Gordon, red, white, and blue, predominantly white. Wide open circuit here. Flags fly back there. It looks like they've got somebody on the edge of the course. Must be the wrecker. Yeah, in fact, it's the safety crew who are trying to get Marco Greco off the course.
For many exciting minutes at the end of qualifying yesterday, it looked as if Villeneuve might stretch his run of pole positions to 4 consecutive pole positions. He lost that battle to DeFerrin, and now today his car seems just a little off form.
Derek cautioning Robbie Gordon, be very careful about passing in that yellow zone. You also saw the white flag, which during the run of the race is telling the drivers that there is another vehicle running slower on the course. Most often it is the IndyCar safety vehicle. Jack Arute?
Well, remember at Indianapolis, we were able to eavesdrop on Derek Walker. Well, it's very unusual to have Derek Walker or any crew chief be able to talk a driver around a road course. But the nature of this place is, for the most part, at least 3/4 of the racetrack can be seen from pit road. So that enables Walker to do a little more coaching. Very similar to what we see on oval tracks for his driver, Robbie Gordon.
Oh, wow, it's Robbie Gordon taking advantage of the positioning of Parker Johnstone. Comes inside him, and now they go side by side.
You got him. You can do it. Keep it there.
And Robbie overcooks it.
Again. Let's go at it again. He's off too. Keep it going. Keep it going. You're okay. Let's get after him. Still a long way to go.
So these passes aren't quite as easy as they seem to be. Robbie Gordon with Jack, and they both get into the corner hot.
There's plenty of room here. This is a personality thing. Robbie pushing Gilles and Jacques, and Jacques having none of it. Boy, that is, I am going to take this corner first, and you're not, and they were willing to go off the road to make their point.
One against the other, and boy, Robbie, you know, off-road he likes.
Look at that. Look at him try to intimidate Jacques.
Yeah.
Is this also an issue, though, of where they can't pick up their marks going into a corner?
Well, that's true, but they were still more concerned with each other.
Look at that. Is that incredible? As they continue right on it. And there it is. Robbie Gordon takes him right back.
Great pass, great pass. Let's get after Andretti now and Herder. Come on, let's get after them.
Setting new goals. You hear Derek Walker immediately set a new goal.
As if he hadn't done enough there, now go ahead and get Michael. Gilles de Ferran is still the leader as we go through the halfway point here in Cleveland. So on board now with 5th place, Robbie Gordon. He's disposed of his battle with Jacques Villeneuve, looks ahead to a battle with Michael Andretti. Let's go to the pits now. Jackaroo.
And Robbie Gordon's teammate, Christian Fittipaldi, is out with engine problems. Christian, how does airport runways compare to road courses from your perception?
Well, it was very bumpy out there, I think, the whole week, and especially because we go from runways to taxiways, and there's a big change in the tarmac. Apart from that, it's okay. I think it's nice for the public because they can see basically 90–95% of the lap, and that's all I can say about the track.
Well, Gary Gerald, we have no more Fittipaldis, and we've lost another Brazilian.
Well, that Brazilian is Mauricio Gugelmin. We're talking about what it's like to run on an airport here in all this wide open spaces. Did you enjoy this while it lasted?
It's a nice place. I love this track. There is plenty of space to pass people, and the good thing, you can make mistakes and get away with it.
It was a fuel pressure problem that put you out?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was the first failure this year. The team has been doing a great job, and sometimes that's motor racing.
The man known as Big Mo on the sidelines, Paul.
Robbie Gordon now closing on Michael Andretti, the battle for 4th place. Resetting the order for you. Gilles de Ferran leads by 8 seconds over Teo Fabi. Brian Herta is 3rd. And then Michael Andretti, and then this car, Robbie Gordon.
This is going to be a great battle that's shaping up between these two young drivers because they are both very good at braking late into the turns. Michael Andretti, of course, has had problems with his brakes throughout the season. He seems to have better brakes now. The pedal no longer causes the rear wheels to lock up as they did earlier in the year. Now the pedal just gets longer as the race goes on. But we'll see. I'm sure they're going to try each other under braking. It's going to be great.
Parker Johnstone, Honda Power, just ahead of this battle, though not ahead in position. Parker is running down in 13th place.
Robbie Gordon, with whom we ride, of course, is in 5th right now, but he is basically at least the 3rd fastest car on the track. The incidents have kept him back. He needs to get by Michael and move on up to Brian Herta, who's right ahead of Michael in the red car. There's Brian Herta just going off the left of your screen. That's how close it is for 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
So Michael makes his way around Parker Johnstone, and so does Robbie. By the way, a special thanks. You see these full lap rundowns after 51 laps, for example, here. Without the computer support here, those all have to be done manually, so everybody back in graphics, thanks a lot. We appreciate it, doing a good job. Gilles de Ferran is out in front, 8.5 seconds. This is the battle on the circuit. Gordon stalking, trying to chase down Michael, while Michael tries to chase down Brian Herta, and now they're all 3 right together.
A volatile situation. Everybody very ambitious in this group, hot young drivers. Michael really caught, can't seem to get by Herta, and is under attack by Gordon.
Brian Herta currently runs 3rd. His race appears to be going fine, Gary.
Well, boy, that's in sharp contrast to the way this season has gone, of course, for Brian Herta. His best finish at 10th this year, and so many times he's been a victim of early contact. Today, the car's working beautifully. The only problem he's having right now is he's having a hard time hearing his crew radio instructions to him. They, however, here at the pit wall, are hearing him just fine. So it's kind of a one-way conversation to the cockpit of Herta for Chip Ganassi's team.
You got a glimpse of Chip Ganassi there for a second on the scoring board as we come back up front. Gilles de Ferran is still leading. In fact, he's led all but 2 laps of this race. And he runs still 8.5 seconds ahead of 2nd place Teo Fabi. Gilles de Ferran could be on his way to his first IndyCar victory to match up with his first IndyCar pole. 53 laps are complete. Lakefront Airport. report in Cleveland for the IndyCars. The PPG IndyCar World Series, car number 8, the bright yellow machine of Gil de Ferran, is the leader of this race, and he has been a dominant power. He is still 8.5 seconds in front of Teo Fabi. Plenty of racing coming up here on ABC over the next couple of weeks. The Michigan 500 next week, and then a week from yesterday, or 2 weeks from yesterday, it's off to the Brickyard 400 NASCAR at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then back to the IndyCars on the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course on the 13th of August. And the fellow who's been talking a lot about the Brickyard is A.J. Foyt, Gary Gerald.
Well, here is the man, and unfortunately, he's smiling, and I don't know why, because it's been a tough day. You blew a motor this morning in the warm-up session, and now Eddie Cheever is out of the car, and I understand it's engine-related again.
Yeah, it's engine-related again. You know, like I said, before Indy, everything looked good with our team. We was doing good, but right now it looked like we got a dark, dark cloud.
What do you do now? Is you try to regroup and salvage part of this season, or do you just keep pushing on? What's the strategy, AJ?
You know, I've been in this game a long time, and you're going to have days like this. All we can do is just kind of forget about it and look at the next race as a brand new race and just grit our teeth and go on. That's about all you can do. I've had these days before. I'm not a beginner at this.
Now, Paul Page was saying just a moment ago, we're only 2 weeks away from the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis, and I hear that you're going to go get in a stock car this next week, maybe even tomorrow, and do some testing. Are we going to see you trying to make that race again?
Well, I don't know. You know, I've not run since last year. I've just run a little bit, and we might try to put a car together and do some testing and start having some fun again. Hell with this stuff. Watch, I can get out there and brake.
Vinny JJ, Jackaroo.
Well, Gary, we're watching Robbie Gordon has come onto pit road, and he's going to take his nominal service, but we may have found the first change in strategy. You see this stick right here? This is from Teo Fabi's crew. They have calculated that they are going to make their stop and go, their gas and go in this second and final stop. They've calculated how many seconds they will need, and that's all they're going to do is take on the fuel as much as they need and then go.
All right, so we'll be watching for that out of the Forsythe team and Teo Fabi. Robbie Gordon, of course, in and out. Gil de Ferran still the leader. He's got 8 seconds in front of this car, Teo Fabi, the 33 machine, who's been running with Scott Pruitt, the 20 car. Remember, Scott was involved in actually a pre-race incident, finally able to get going once again. But, of course, it has not contributed to Scott Pruitt's finest day. He runs down in 18th place. So we should have our second round of stops developing within the next few laps here. The running order is de Ferran, Teo Fabi, Brian Herta. Fourth is Michael Andretti. Then Gordon, then Villeneuve, then Raul Boesel. In 8th is Jimmy Vasser. 9th is Adrian Fernandez. And 10th is Danny Sullivan.
As you see Fabi with the red and white car shadowing Pruitt's similar car there, you should know that the new engineer on that team, Lee Dykstra, has made quite a difference. Apparently is signed for next year. They have a very strong package on that team. Fabi, incredibly experienced.
Robbie Gordon, Brian Herta continue their fight. And this time it's Herta that dominates. Or, excuse me, Gordon that dominates as Gordon moves around, picks up 3rd place.
All right, now the 2 cars that are ahead of Gordon now, Fabi and de Ferran, have both been running roughly Gordon's speed. The pickings will not be so easy for Gordon now, who trails Fabi by several seconds. He's way up the track. Gordon is having a terrific day, having overcome, what, 3 incidents, Paul, where he's been off the track?
Yeah, not a great day. So, Gil de Ferran still in front. And we anticipate him to pull to a stop right here any second, Gary.
There's that familiar yellow color combination, perfectly placed, and this crew goes to work for Jim Hall. His last IndyCar victory, John Andretti was at the wheel. The first time they ran at Surfer's Paradise in Australia, the rookie de Ferran has complained not whatsoever. He loves the way the car's handling. 14 seconds flat, and he's gone. That should be his final stop.
Boy, what a story this is going to be. The rookie Gil de Ferran in his 12th IndyCar race can score a win. Now Teo Fabi. Looking to heads for the pits.
Remember that Fabi stayed out longer around the first group of stops and became the leader on the track.
All right, so Teo Fabi stays out. Gil de Ferran has made his final stop. And the battle continues on the Burke Lakefront Airport. We'll be back after these messages. Back at the Burke Lakefront Airport, Teo Fabi is the leader of the field here, due for a stop any time, but look at this. He's going to stay out yet another lap. They're getting some remarkable economy out of that car, and maybe he can pull just enough ahead so that he can make his stop and rejoin the fight still at the front of the field. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, they had radioed to Teo to come in that time by, but remember the onboard telemetry tells the driver just approximately how much gas or fuel actually remains. Inasmuch as they are going to make what we're calling a gas and go with a stick, a time stop, better to use up as much fuel as possible and take on only the necessary fuel to go the distance. Right now, he'll end up having a net of 4 additional laps over Gil de Ferran. That could be the difference between finishing second and possibly going to victory lane.
Jack Villeneuve on the pit road for what will be his final stop of the day. Remember, though, too, it's 2.3 miles around this course. And if Teo Fabi had miscalculated, that could have been very expensive. So Villeneuve makes his stop, and Teo got the word this time, and he heads onto the pit road. So Teo Fabi will make his final stop of the day as the leader of the race. Raul Boisel has moved into second with these stops, and we'll see if he assumes the lead.
Now, Paul, the stopwatch is poised. As soon as the hose is connected, the stopwatch will start. The stick is poised. As soon as they have figured out exactly how much fuel they need, one crew member will tap another, and he'll tap the fuel man with a stick. They do it. He's off and away in 11.4 seconds.
Boy, is that great. Oh, you talk about the ballet, the coordination of these crews, and how they anticipate and plan.
And by timing the stop that way, instead of putting a full load aboard, they save at least 3, maybe 4 seconds because the fuel flows in slower later in the game.
I was thinking how valuable that 3 or 4 seconds is. It's just unbelievable.
Fabi's group is running a really hot race.
I'll tell you what, it looks like Teo's gotten it done in and out of the pits with that time stop, and stays the leader. Raul Boisel, who stayed out a little too long, appears to be rolling to a stop on the course. That's Danny Sullivan coming under Teo, but Teo's sitting there with a full load of fuel on the car and has to get it back up to speed. There is now second place, Gil de Ferran. So great work by the crew. Keeps Teo Fabi out in front and moved him up a position earlier in the day.
This is the first time we've been watching de Ferran in other than the lead, and it will be interesting to see if he has the speed now to close in on Fabi.
Fabi looks like he was going slow down pit lane. It looked like he was going slow down pit lane. I thought he was going to go into the pits again.
Keeping an eye on Teo Fabi. That's exactly what he did, Jackaroo.
Well, this is definitely an unscheduled stop. Now, he had lit the tires up when he pulled out into the pits, and you could tell when he pulled onto pit road there was something amiss in the engine compartment. Just a lot of disappointment on Teo Fabi because they have killed the motor now. Oftentimes, when you try to light the tires up and get on the throttle after a pit stop, you can create electronic problems that spell doom for the engine.
Well, we thought when he was moving slowly there, at least I thought that it was just the heavy fuel load and he was being cautious. And then I got to thinking, well, he wasn't on fresh tires, so there wasn't any need to be. And almost immediately he had it in. And that gives the lead over to Gil de Ferran once again. So luck plays into the battle, but nobody ever refuses good luck.
What a break for de Ferran.
And there is Raul Boisel. You can see the nose of that car has been in contact throughout this day. He was up to the front of the field. Let's go to Gary.
Yeah, Paul, it was a case of an engine misfire. He was trying to limp his way to the pits. The crew had been greatly encouraged because they've been on a roll here in the last month with some solid top 10 finishes. He had worked his way to 7th. Then in the pit stop situation, he had actually moved up to 5th. But now, of course, sidelined, it's all over. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary, it wasn't an engine problem. It's a broken exhaust for Teo Fabi, and he is out of this race at Cleveland.
All right, so Gil de Ferran has the lead. Now we're no longer relying on the the computer scoring here, but Judy Stropus is keeping track of everything for us, with DeFerrin the leader, then Michael Andretti, Robbie Gordon, Brian Herta, and Jacques Villeneuve. 68 laps are complete. On Tuesday, the television world lost a very dear friend, George Wenzel, founder and co-owner of the NEP companies, which supplies all the technical support for these great pictures that you see at home. He had a tragic accident and lost his life 5 days ago. All of us on the crew, as well as the entire industry, know how much George meant to this business and how much influence he had on its growth and development. His inspiration, his leadership, and love will never be equaled and will never be forgotten. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his friends and family. We will truly miss him.
This Ford Fact is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately? Indy cars are so sensitive that accurate and repeatable chassis measurements are a must. By replacing the standard wheels and tires with setup wheels, which are manufactured from a solid piece of aluminum, bearings placed on the bottom, allows the car to settle in the same place each and every time on these pads, which are actual scales telling you how heavy that corner of the car is. The setup wheels also give you a flat plane to measure both the toe-in and toe-out angle and also what's known as camber angle. You can take a pair of calipers on a piece of fishing line here and take a measurement on the front and then take a measurement on the rear. That will tell you toe-in to 1/10 of a millimeter. To measure the camber, you would take an inclinometer, place it on that same flat plane. That will give you a measurement down to 1/100th of a degree. That may sound like a very small measurement, but drivers say they can feel the difference. And it took 6 months to develop this system. The team says it was well worth the effort.
Well, here at the Burke Lakefront Airport, under the full course yellow, this is something they've been doing regularly, bringing out this, what is really a jet airplane engine towed behind a truck so that they can blow off some of those scraps of rubber that build up off the line and can cause accidents like Eric Bachelar's. Let's go to the pits and Jack.
Well, Paul, second place runner Michael Andretti has radioed into his team that he is experiencing a little bit of a loose condition, so this caution is a nice respite for him. But he also has intermittent radio problems. Sometimes he can't hear, sometimes he can. So they're working with that. But most importantly, what the team has done, they feel they have somewhat of a verbal agreement with Scott Pruitt, where at the drop of the green flag, Pruitt will drop out of the way so Andretti can go chasing the leader. Let's check in with Gary Gerald for some more news from pit road.
And in the third place pit of Robbie Gordon, Derek Walker has been earnestly talking to his young driver, admonishing him or wanting him to have patience. He said, don't do anything until I tell you to, because they know that this is almost like a restart to this event. And remember that wild scramble going to turn number 1. Michael Andretti, Robbie Gordon in second and third, two of the most aggressive young drivers getting ready for the green. Now also for Gordon, this is a great opportunity to cool his brakes that had been starting to fade under the full course yellow. And what their concerns about getting another splash of fuel, this yellow takes care of that. He's going up to 104, nearly full rich on the fuel indicator in the cockpit. He's going to go hammer down. This should be very exciting, Paul.
Yeah, we got a great view of how the field will line up. Used car for sale over here. Bosell, Bachelor. 9 cars are on the lead lap. 74 laps are complete. 16 to go with Joe DeFerrin out in front. We should be coming back to a green flag just momentarily. In the meantime, Al Unser Jr. out of the run, Gary.
The defending champion of the series continues to have very, very tough luck. We know you had electronic problems, but that's not what put you out of the race. What was it?
Well, we finally lost the transmission there leaving the pits that last time, and you know, it's just the same. The whole Marlboro Team Penske, all of my guys, I'm just so proud of them, because we keep coming back week after week and all the problems that we keep having, and they keep coming back with their chins up and ready to go. And so, you know, I'm awful thankful of that. And I just want to say hi to Al and Cody and Shannon at home, and I miss you a lot.
Thanks, Junior. We're back green, Paul.
That was green. I'll tell you what, Robbie Gordon grabbed the road for a second. The blow dryer struggled to get off the course in time. DeFerrin moved to one side. Now here comes Michael up challenging for the lead. DeFerrin has the lead at the moment. Michael is right behind him, so we swap back and forth 3 times in 2 corners. On board Michael now. DeFerrin just ahead. Now with Robbie Gordon, third place. Derek Walker's going to have to say now. Now in the closing laps, 76 laps complete, 90 scheduled. That is a great shot, Lynn.
What's going on here has some real championship implications because Michael Andretti, of course, is now in a position to win while look at this.
Well, look at Robbie. He tries it on the inside again. They both circle around.
Come on, get it
look
up,
at that for a series of lines.
Plus one on Herder. He's right on your tail. Come on, let's get going. Get off to the Barrett.
Scott Pruitt came around there. He's simply trying to get back on the lead lap.
Dead forward. Keep after them. Let's go. Let's go.
So Michael DeFerrin. And Robbie's reporting he's got a problem.
Okay, bring it in. We'll do it. Which one? Left rear. Okay, let's just do the left rear. Just the left rear.
Look at him struggle with it. That's the left rear tire that's gone down.
It's flat. Dead four. I got it. I can see it. Take it easy now.
You know, you can only lean on that equipment so much, and eventually it will break.
I wonder how much contact occurred in there. Here it is.
Not only that, he's running out in the debris out there. In other words, you can take that chance, you can go out there, you can really make a move, but at the same time, you're risking a lot, and you'll get a lot of that crap that sort of collects along the track and debris, and it can cut a tire.
So Jack Arute, now Robbie's back in.
Well, Paul, they've taken the wounded tire off. It was just ripped to shreds on the left side, and Robbie Gordon is totally frustrated. You can hear the car missing. That's because he's got the floorboard, he's got the gas pedal down to the floorboard, and the button keeping him from over-revving. That's frustration.
And there's the tire. Cost Robbie Gordon what may have been another win. Let's take a look at the restart again. This is from Michael Andretti. And at this point, Michael opens his eyes.
This is the best racing of the year right here. Fabulous. DeFerrin hanging it out. Michael coming on top. Lucky they didn't touch there.
And it's where the width of this course pays off.
Great stuff. I started to say there are tremendous championship implications for what's happening now that Michael Andretti is leading the race, because he is now gaining ground rapidly on both Rahal, who's having trouble in this race, and Jacques Villeneuve, who is running now back in fourth. Big day for Michael Andretti if he can keep this thing together.
And for the moment, it's a three-car battle. DeFerrin, Herta, Villeneuve. As Michael Andretti, can he make it two in a row? He's trying to pull away. Scott Pruitt's in the fight, but he's 2 laps down. Floating over the Burke Lakefront Airport is one of America's most enduring corporate symbols. The Goodyear blimp, the Spirit of Akron, is providing us with an aerial view of the Burke Lakefront Airport and the Cleveland IndyCar Grand Prix. Some great shots it's provided, some good analysis shots for us here. Right now it is still Michael Andretti that leads the race. Gil DeFerrin has dropped to second and is locked in a battle, trying to hold off Brian Herta and Jacques Villeneuve. Also, by way of note, Adrian Fernandez, who started 18th, has moved up to 5th, and Jimmy Vasser is up in 6th right now. Jack Arute?
Well, let's update you on Michael Andretti. We said he has a wing problem, and pieces are beginning to fall off. It looks like maybe part of the wing attenuator on the front came off. That will create some handling problems at high speed. But, you know, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company has brought a brand new tire here this year to the Cleveland Burke Lakefront Airport. I asked the engineers what they had done differently. They said basically it's the same compound, but we concentrated in this area, the crown area of the tire, to create better grip. And so far, their performance, it looks as if they not only did their homework, but they'll pass the final exam.
Well, Jack, in the season-long struggle between Goodyear and the Firestone Company, who of course is back into racing, Goodyear has managed to win all of the races and now extend their consecutive race win streak to 314. So we've heard a lot about Firestone this year, but Goodyear has really fought them off beautifully.
what Michael's problem is, I can tell you that he is staying with the pack. He's not as a leader. Usually you see Michael pull away. You know, he's able to pull that little bit of edge out. But I think that everybody is staying. The pack is staying with him. And I think it possibly could be has also lost an air brake duct, which means that his brakes wouldn't be as well. And I see that that's where everybody seems to be able to close. If his brakes are not functioning as well and he has a high-speed problem, it really could be an issue.
He just didn't have the speed all day. I mean, it's a series of circumstances that have brought him up here into the lead. I don't think we will see him pull away, particularly as long as he's got Scott Pruitt, that car right behind him, to act as a buffer between him and his nearest pursuers. He's driving a really canny race today.
Let's go back and take a look. We'll keep track of this battle, believe me. That restart once again, maybe we can get an idea of where he actually got chopped, though it wasn't obvious before where the contact came. May have come right there.
I think it might have happened actually with DeFerrin. I think that's who he had the contact with.
Good call.
Jackaroo?
Well, Paul, the way Lynn and Sam have been discussing back and forth what fell off the car, that's exactly what the crew has to do. You know, they try to radio in, the driver tries to relate as to what's happening, but this is an unknown.
Whoa, look at Herta. Herta comes inside of Villeneuve, and that battle continues. Villeneuve can hold him off as they go to the Lakeside Straight. Wow, great overhead views now on board with Herta. Oh, what a super battle this has been.
You know, on the widest track they run on all year, we have seen the closest wheel-to-wheel competition. Boy, was that a thrill.
Well, as you know, Sam, no matter how wide the track is, there's still one lane on the racetrack that is the line is where you want to be. So it all funnels down very quickly.
Also, I think there's a diminution of the fear factor, don't you? Here, you know you're not going to get badly hurt in most of them.
What Sam's trying to say is that there's grass out there that you can drive off on.
Well, thank you for translating that.
Yeah.
You got diminution of the grass. Look at this. Jill DeFerrin moves down to the inside. Jill DeFerrin to the inside takes Michael. Now charges on Villeneuve.
DeFerrin is in trouble.
DeFerrin gets pushed off, gets tangled with Scott Pruitt. DeFerrin's day appears to be over. Michael has the lead solidly now. He had just gotten past Michael, and he is trying to get them to get his car back going. That's Luke DeFerrin, his father. He can't believe it.
As DeFerrin has run into trouble in other races very late in the game, so has he here again.
This is the fight for second as Herta and Villeneuve go wheel to wheel, 2 corners now. Is this going to end up in trouble?
Sam, forget that line about one line on the racetrack. They're doing this double for sure.
Unbelievable. DeFerrin obviously angered by what happened.
You can't go 2 abreast everywhere, though, and that's the turn that also had the marbles, even though we had the dryer out there to try to push them all.
Oh, what a sad moment for Jill DeFerrin. The day truly belonged to him. Would have been a great birthday present, 60th birthday for Jim Hall. Now Michael Andretti runs alone with Herta and then Villeneuve closing down. Adrian Fernandez is the next car in the order.
Herta has driven himself one terrific race to emerge in second.
Now taking a look down from the Honda helicopter and its helicam. Again, looking out at the Lakeside Straight.
And just as we talk about Herta, Jimmy Vasser on the same team, Ganassi's team, emerges in 4th place. So that team is having a great day, having not figured much in the early running.
I think there's been a lot of outstanding performances today, and I think one of the things that may have occurred that on that incident, and there was one of the outstanding performances that obviously has had a terrible misfortune.
Adrian Fernandez was on his way to a great day, and he stopped by the edge of the course. We don't have a clue as to why he's out there. So let's go and take a look back. This will be Michael's onboard camera in that confrontation with DeFerrin. Now that's Pruitt coming across the front. Pruitt is 2 laps back. Oh, and he traps DeFerrin to the inside.
That's the point I was going to make, was that I think that Pruitt, even though he was able to run with the leaders, he was 2 laps back. DeFerrin really thought he could go for that.
Boy, DeFerrin
and Pruitt. Pruitt on the right in the red suit.
I suspect the argument there is that Ferrin felt that because Pruitt was 2 laps back that he should not have vied for that corner.
Yeah.
And now the word is that Michael has begun to slow. So we keep an eye on Brian Herta, who closes behind Michael now. And indeed, he seems to be catching him.
Just a year and a week ago, Brian Herta injured so badly at Toronto. His career seemed to be at least on hold temporarily as his legs recovered. He managed to come back, get this ride. Then he had a good start to the season, a bad middle part of the season. Look at him now.
Here comes Herta as he makes his move on Michael, and he's got him with 2 laps to go.
But no!
Michael comes back as Herta falters.
But look at Villeneuve.
The white
Villeneuve
flag
is in the
comes
middle.
out. Villeneuve comes in on the charge. The white flag is out. 2 miles to go. 1 lap as Villeneuve moves for the lead.
Anything is possible.
Michael, he touches Michael. They both keep going. Oh, what a great run.
The greatest race of the year.
So now Jack Villeneuve has picked up the lead. The crowd is on its feet and cheering.
Unbelievable.
Herta tries to play catch-up now.
Just a little dirt to put onto the track.
I think Herta missed a gear. I don't think he's in real mechanical trouble. I think he missed a shift. That's why he dropped suddenly back.
Final set of corners now for these two. Jack Villeneuve has it, but Herta now has the challenge. Can he come up and close on Villeneuve?
This is Villeneuve's canniest race. He's driven great races all year. This is his smartest, most patient, and he will extend his championship.
Quick little straightaway ahead. Jack Villeneuve, and then Brian Herta as Villeneuve screams for the checkered flag. Herta can't catch him. Villeneuve takes the win, taking the lead in the last lap. Brian Herta comes across in second, his teammate Vassar in third, Bobby Rahal in fourth. Jack Villeneuve has scored the victory here on the Burke Lakefront Airport, his 4th of the year and the 5th of his career.
Back here in victory lane, Jacques Villeneuve away from his car, getting the congratulations of everybody, getting the kiss. And Jack, describe the emotions of that last lap, because boy, everything broke loose.
Oh yeah, that was tough. You know, the car, we had a pretty low downforce, and the tires went down pretty quickly, and this yellow allowed us to cool down the tires and to be strong for the end, and we could fight. And then when Brian went for the hole and took Michael, there was still a yellow flag. They both screwed up and slowed down, and I just went for the hole.
What about the chase for the point standings? This was such a disciplined race for you and Team Green.
Yeah, when I couldn't fight, I thought, okay, let's hope this race finishes soon, because I had a hard time to stay there and get some more points. But when we had the yellow, I knew we could cool down the tires and that I could push hard for the last 10 laps, and I would have a go at it, and it worked out.
Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, I don't know how you put in words the disappointment this young man must be facing right now. Gilles, you lead this race. It looked like you got everybody covered. What happened there with that 5 laps to go?
Well, Pruitt was in between me and Michael and really making it difficult for me to race against Michael. I wanted to have a shot at Michael, and I thought that we could have, as he was slowing down a little bit in the last few laps. And he caught traffic, and him and Pruitt slowed coming into the back straight, and I had a run at both, and I passed Michael, and I was halfway past Pruitt, and he went fighting for the braking area with me like we were fighting for the lead. I don't understand. I'm very disappointed. I had a close encounter with him earlier on in the race, which baffled me as well. I mean,
in your young racing career, have you ever had a disappointment like this one?
No, this for sure beats everything I had in the past. I mean, I think we had a fantastic car. The Pennzoil team did a fantastic job. We had good pit stops. You know, we led the whole day comfortably. I had the problems on the last restart. It was just a shame.
Thank you, Gilles. Paul?
And there sits the car by the edge of the course, Gilles de Ferran's mount. After the checkered flag, this occurred between Robbie Gordon and Michael Andretti, as he just snapped into the side of him. So we'll be back with more from Burke Lakefront after these messages. Well, there have been some remarkable results here today. Here are the unofficial results as you look down the list. Jimmy Vassar started in 15th position, came up to 3rd. Rahal started back in 11th. This is Herta's best finish thus far, and Parker Johnstone's best finish thus far. So a lot of people with much to prove as they came here today, and they certainly had a great day. Let's go to Jack.
Paul, big day for Chip Ganassi. 3rd place to Jimmy Vassar. Brian Herta, 2nd place. Your thoughts on that last lap?
Well, you know, we knew Michael had a problem, and I caught him there. I wasn't sure if the yellow was still up with the fair, and I got by him, and I thought, you know, if the yellow's still up, I better lift off. So I lifted off and let him back by, and unfortunately, you know, Jacques got back by 2. It was a great race. We had a great duel, and I just feel terrific. I want to thank all the crew on the Target Scotch team who stuck by me through the tough times, and you know, this one's definitely for those guys.
A lot of celebration in Ohio tonight, Gary Gerald.
Well, Robbie Gordon wanted to be a part of that celebration, but not. Tell us now about this incident there at the end of the race with Michael Andretti and the contact.
Well, you know, we were running. I tried to put a lube on Michael and Jill going down in turn 1, and he gave me a flat tire. So then at the end, we were just shaking our fists at each other, and these cars have got heavy steering. We just barely touched tires.
Are you going to have punitive action, do you think, from IndyCar officials?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it was good, clean racing, but you know, 2 flats for Michael Andretti in 1 race just doesn't count.
There you have it from Robbie Gordon.
And there you see it. So Michael Andretti and Robbie Gordon together, and the explanation
steering
from Robbie. Well, the race is done here. Jacques Villeneuve has done it again and done it in the last couple of laps. So now you can sail on home out there. Well, round 12 of the PPG IndyCar World Series certainly had its share of excitement, and with his move in the last laps there, Jacques Villeneuve was able to extend his points lead. Consider, without some of the confrontations today, what this points chart might look like at this point. And in the Nations Cup, well, Canada closes in on the United States once again. So that battle continues, and the PPG Cup battle is not nearly over. There's still plenty of points left in the season, despite that lead by Jacques Villeneuve. Next week, we'll be at the Michigan 500. Lynn St. James will be driving there. For Sam Posey, Lynn, Jack, and Gary, thanks a lot for joining us. Join us in a week, and before we leave, let's take a look at some of the great highlights of this wonderful weekend with the IndyCars in Cleveland.